Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is kind of a hard one for me. Let me bring it up on Goodreads. If this is for, and by now I will have popped it up on the screen, My Mother's Gift by Steffanie Edward. Now, Steffanie Edward, this is her second book. I read her first book last year. And in this book, we have Erica, who gets a phone call from her auntie saying that I can't take care of your mother, who is her auntie's younger sister, anymore. I can't do it. So Erica gets on a plane and she flies to St. Lucia. She's living in London, where she's been living for years. And she lives in London with her daughter Millie. But her mother has remained in St. Lucia, as well as her aunt and any cousins on that side of the family. They've stayed in St. Lucia, and now her mother needs her help. Now, Erica knew her mother was sick. There's no denying that. In fact, she knew her mother had Alzheimer's, had dementia, which is a form of Alzheimer's, or Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. I always get them mixed up. But she didn't know to what extent her mother had gotten ill. Now, the reason I said that this would be a hard book review is because, first of all, I've never had a relative with Alzheimer's. I know my husband's grandmother had Alzheimer's, and his mother, which is my mother-in-law, she's still alive and well. Hubby's mother took care of her mother until her mother passed away from Alzheimer's. That's the closest connection I've had to Alzheimer's. I've never even spoken to somebody with the illness. But what I did do is, about a year ago, I read 4 or 5 books by Lisa Genova. Lisa Genova is an author, but she's also a neuroscientist. And the first book I read of hers was Still Alice, about a woman in her 40s, a professor, a genius, who developed early onset Alzheimer's. And that book was incredibly sad. Then I went and watched the movie. I think I got it on Amazon Prime or Netflix. I don't care where I got it. But nonetheless, I read Still Alice, and then I watched the movie. But I also read everything that Lisa Genova wrote, which was Every Note Played, Love, Anthony, and there's 2 others. Well, every book that Lisa Genova writes talks about a neurological issue, Alzheimer's, TBI, total brain injury, stroke, whatever. And so when I was reading My Mother's Gift, I got really sad because I thought about Still Alice and about this woman's entire life being taken from her, having early onset on Alzheimer's. Now, in this book, Erica's mother, I don't think they ever say the age, but I would guess she's in her 70s. And I say that based on Erica's having a daughter that's near to get married. So you figure if Erica's daughter's in her 20s, then 20s, Erica's in her 40s. So her mother's probably in her 70s. So there's classic differences in this book and in the Lisa Genova book. But I still kept thinking about Still Alice. Well, when Erica gets to St. Lucia, while it may be a beautiful place, it brings nothing but sadness, because Erica realizes that her mother is very far gone, further gone than she could have imagined, and even more quickly than she could have imagined. And what's more is the shock that she deals with when she gets there is only exacerbated by other events that take place in very quick succession. So Erica has a decision to make. What is she going to do about her mother's care? Is she going to take her mother back to London with her? Will she stay in St. Lucia? Will she put her mother in a home? Will she be able to convince her aunt, who she calls auntie in the whole book, will she be able to get her aunt to find care for her mother? She's got choices to make. One thing I liked about this book is I don't read a lot of books about the islands, and I believe it's the Virgin Islands. Should I have looked it up ahead of time? You're daggone right I should have, but I didn't. Is the patois And I know that's a New Orleans term, but I'm going to use it in a term of language, like kissing your teeth and just certain very on point connections to the people that lived in St. Lucia. So while I was reading this emotional story about Erica's mother, Ione, by the way, I didn't say her name is Ione. While I was reading this story, I was put in the mind and mindset and community and environment of the folks in St. Lucia. Now, part of my family is from Barbados, so we have island, in our blood, and I love the way the author did that, because she didn't just give us a factual case. Is there's a woman who's around my age or a little younger than me who has a mother with Alzheimer's, and now she's going to make a decision and it's black and white. No, it was all the shades of gray. And while it was all the shades of gray, you felt like you were right there in St. Lucia with Erica while she was trying to decide what to do, what the best decision that she could make for her mother. This was a very, very, very good book. I found it, maybe if I hadn't read Still Alice and watched Still Alice, I don't know if this book would have had such a strong impact on me, but it did. And I'm the kind of reader, the more you watch my channel and listen to my reviews or read reviews on my blog, you're going to find out that I'm the takeaway person. I take away something from every book I read, fiction or nonfiction, biography or memoir, romance or mystery. I find something. There's got to be something that I take away. So what I took away from this book is a daughter's love for her mother. But there's a caveat. I think when she was about 11 years old, I can't remember how old she was at the time, but her mother took up with a man that Erica called Mr. Frank. Her mother, Ione, and Mr. Frank never married. But that relationship between her mother and Mr. Frank had a very powerful impact on Erica's life, not just when she was a child growing up in Mr. Frank's house, because her and her mother, who were very, very poor before Mr. Frank came into the picture. So not only was her life as a child affected by Mr. Frank, but it molded her into who she was as an adult. And this whole thing with her mother and Mr. Frank even had a role in her relationship with her mother as a child, as a teen, and even as an adult. Also, this book touched on the sickle cell gene, sickle cell anemia. You'll have to read the book to find the tie-in to the sickle cell gene. But I don't remember what book I read last week. I swear I should remember. But it also dealt with sickle cell anemia. But that's a very serious illness that affects a certain percentage and a very targeted percentage of the population. So we find out a little bit more about this and how this affects Erica and her daughter Millie, and even other things about Erica as we learn deep into the book. So I don't want to give you any spoilers, but I wanted to tell you. So we're not just talking about a woman with Alzheimer's needs her daughter's help, and her daughter goes to St. Lucia to make a decision about her long-term care. No, it has a lot of facets. And I thought it was a very, very, very good book, a very touching read, very captivating. I won't say impossible to put down, because I had to put it down because I took it very deeply. I almost took it personally. And I love that about a book that makes you feel. And that's what Steffanie Edward did. She made me feel as a reader. And I thoroughly appreciate her doing that. I don't know what she has next, but I will be grabbing her books. This is a Bookature book. In fact, I believe I have it as a blog tour on the 24th or 25th. So I will be writing a physical review of this book as well, because it needs to go up in the format of a blog tour. But once Steffanie Edwards' next book comes up on Bookature, you bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to grab it, because she's an excellent writer. This may only be her sophomore book, but she's definitely got the gift of the pen, and I appreciate that as a reader. So I want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you'll take a look at this book, is it her mother's gift? No, my mother's gift. So thank you. Bye-bye.